Hi, thank you so much for coming in today to talk about Helen. First off, Helen is an absolute joy to have in class. I love having her in my class this year. She's always participating in lessons and she loves sharing her ideas. I always see her raising her hand in like any lesson in any subject. She's just so excited about learning. Also, she is a great friend to her classmates and is always willing to help them. I always see her picking up trash around the room or asking her classmates if they need help with anything, if they need help putting their stuff away or getting something. She's always right there, happy and ready to serve them. So to start off, one thing that we've been really focusing on at this beginning of the year is on reading. And one way that we've been tracking reading progress is by doing assessments with students. Now, assessments they're tests, but they're not used for any grading purposes. They're just to help me know what areas students need more focus in or what they're doing really well with. And how I can use that information to help move on. What more do I need to teach? What do I need to teach them next? So they really are just administered to help me know what would be helpful to work on next with that specific student. So recently I did two of these reading assessments with Helen, and one was a running record. So this assessment is I just have Helen read to me, read a little bit from her guided reading book, just maybe like a page or two, and as she reads I jot down notes about words that maybe she read incorrectly or skipped or asked for help with. And then after she's finished reading, I ask her a few questions, comprehension questions about like what was the story about, who were the characters, what genre was the book. And really that assessment is just helping me to understand how she's thinking about the book after reading it and also how she is reading, and really just focusing on those words that she's reading incorrectly and understanding why she's reading them incorrectly. And the other assessment I did with Helen was called DIBELS. This assessment measures reading fluency, or the amount of words that Helen says correctly per minute. I had Helen read a passage. Well, I had her read 3 passages, and each one for only 1 minute. And I marked which words she read incorrectly again or skipped. And then, so just really looking at how many words she read in a minute and how many of those words were incorrect and correct as well. So these assessments, they showed me that we need to work on reading with accuracy. That Helen needs help reading words accurately. So Helen often, from these assessments, I noticed that Helen often skips words as she reads, or she says a word with the same beginning, but that does not match what is written. I noticed that a lot of the mistakes she was making were really visual cues, like not matching the letter and the sound. Should either add like a different ending to the, get the word correct, but add like a different ending, like ed or s to the end, or would start a word off with the exact same like phrase, such as, for one of them, the word was right, but she said, reached, so she added a different ending that had the same beginning sound, but it was a totally different word. So there are a few ways that we can help that I've been helping her to work on this, and there's also a few things that you can do at home to also help her with reading accurately. So at school we work on accuracy by reading short passages or short stories, and paying close attention to if what we're reading aloud matches what is written on the page. So last week I had her read a passage and we would trade off, and as she was reading I would say stop if she skipped a word or said a word incorrectly, and then that kind of helped her notice what she had missed. And so this helped her because as she was able to slow down her reading, then she was able to she can easily fix the words that she's reading incorrectly. So we continue to work on that, just practicing reading slower and paying attention to those individual words that we're saying out loud and if they're matching what is on the page. Another thing to work on, or it's an extension of this, is like working on specifically on that letter sound correspondence. So maybe even just looking at words on their own, not in the context of a passage, and just breaking them down and making sure that all of the sounds we're saying match the letters in the words. So at home, you can work on reading with accuracy by reading short stories with Helen, and you could trade off, like we do at school, reading and stop whenever a word is skipped or said incorrectly. And reading the same text over and over again can help with improving accuracy as Helen becomes more familiar with the words and the story. She can pay better attention to what she is reading instead of being so focused on what am I reading, what are all these words on the page. She can be so familiar with that text and just be able to read it straight through and really focus on those words, reading those words with accuracy. These assessments also showed me that Helen reads at a great speed and with a lot of expression. Along with accuracy, these are the two major components of reading fluency. And the reason reading fluency is so important is that it aids children in their comprehension or the ability to understand what they're reading. So they're not so focused on decoding or trying to figure out what the words on the page mean and trying to understand. They're able to read with the right speed and expression, and so that aids them because they can focus more on what the story is actually about rather than the individual words on the page. And so she has shown from these assessments that she is reading with good speed and has that expression down, just working on that accuracy still. So ways that you can support Helen's reading speed is to praise her for her timing, and you could even time her as she reads at home with you for fun. And reading together can also aid with speed as she hears you read at a normal reading pace. It can also help her to read at that pace to kind of match your pace as well. And a way to help support her with the expression in her reading would be to while you're reading with her, you can practice looking at punctuation while reading. So this includes like making sure you're stopping at periods, pausing at commas, adding excitement when there's an exclamation point, or using different vocal intonations when there's a question mark, and also like practicing changing volumes while you're reading. Or you could even, for fun, try reading in different voices just to see how expression can be used while reading to add more life to the text and to help with, it also helps with that comprehension to give characters a voice rather than students just reading, children just reading very choppy and not paying attention to that punctuation. It's helpful to really hone in on that and help children to realize that the punctuation is there to help them while they're reading and to add expression, which Helen is doing really well with. So if you continue to do this at home, and we'll also continue to do it at school, this can really help support her and improve that even more than it already is. So overall, practicing reading with accuracy will help to improve Helen's overall reading comprehension and fluency scores. It may seem like redundant to keep reading the same text aloud together over and over again, but the repetition will really help Helen to familiarize herself with the words and pay closer attention to reading them correctly. And then once she improves her accuracy, we'll continue to practice reading and be able to focus more on those deep comprehension skills since she's already has those two major components of reading fluency down. She's just working on that accuracy. Once we see some improvement with that, then we can just keep reading for comprehension rather than reading to understand all the words on the page. And I am so grateful that you were able to come in tonight. I love working with your daughter Helen, and my advice is just keep on reading with her. Have fun, and keep reading with her and helping her to work on accuracy.